In honor of Throwback Thursday, I've decided to give you a special treat, a blast from the past.
Lesson 4. The first body language strategy I'd like to share with you is called the power projector. I'd like you to start off by checking your body language right now. Check your body language. How are you sitting? Are you hunched over? Are your arms crossed? Or do you have an open posture? Are your shoulders back? Is your chest out? What I'd like you to do over the next week is find time every now and then, maybe at least 3 times a day, where you weren't anticipating doing it, but you're just working. You might be communicating with somebody else and you stop and you think, check the posture, and ask yourself randomly throughout the day, how am I sitting? Or how am I standing, of course. What that does is helps us be more conscious of our body language. And when we have more of an open posture, and we'll be talking about a great strategy that takes just 2 minutes to change the perception other people have of you when you communicate with them. When you have more of an open posture, it actually changes the way you feel on a biochemical level. Remember that we are always communicating with people on a conscious level, at a subconscious level, on a biochemical level, on a cellular level, on an atomic level, on a genetic level. There are so many different ways that we are communicating. When we simply sit down next to somebody, we have a biochemical effect on them. Do you know that our genes actually talk to the genes in other people when we are around them? Many of us who are engaged in this communication training program struggle with being confident in our communication, and that therefore diminishes the power of our message. So what I'd like you to do is this: at least twice a day for the next week, before you go into a presentation, before you go into a meeting, before you go into some communication situation that you would deem an important one, what I would like you to do is stand up, put your chest out, put your arms up, and make the shape of a big letter X, palms facing forward, and your feet standing a little bit more than shoulder width apart. Ideally, you'd want to hold it for 3 minutes, but at least hold it for 2 minutes. And what that will do when you do that is it actually raises your testosterone levels and lowers your cortisol levels. And that is something that you want to do before you are engaged in a high risk, let's say, or important communication situation. There are different reasons you'd like to do that. Number one, you want to raise your testosterone levels. And this is the same in men or women, by the way. You want to raise those levels because it will make you feel more confident and powerful. And if you feel more confident and powerful, you will project a more powerful and confident image. It will also make other people perceive you as more powerful. People will trust you more. People will listen more to what you have to say, because when your chemical levels change, that changes the chemical levels in the people around you, in the people with whom you are communicating. And so remember, if you are going in to make a presentation, if you're going into a job interview, if you're going into a situation where you think, I need these people to listen to me, to respect me, to perceive me as powerful and confident in my communication, when you change your body posture, at least for a few minutes, it's kind of like we're going to fake it till we make it. We are going to act ourselves into a new way of thinking. I talk about that a lot in our communication classes, how sometimes what we want to do is act ourselves into a new way of thinking. For example, if you want to be a better listener, act like a better listener, behave as better listeners do. And all of a sudden, magically, you become a better listener. If you want to, for example, be a better spouse, be more loving, act like a more loving, a better spouse. And what'll happen is you magically become the things that you're acting like. So it's not as if, let's say, we are putting on airs or being phony. What I want to do is actually change my makeup. And one of the ways we can change our biochemical makeup, which affects us and which affects those with whom we are communicating, is by simply implementing that one pose that I just showed you. So remember, make like a big letter X, be the star, put your palms forward, spread out, open up, and hold that pose for at least 3 minutes before you go into a important communication situation, and watch the difference in how people perceive you. And the next visual communication strategy that I'd like to share with you is called the look away. Yes. In this culture, in the United States, we are all trained to look people in the eye when we talk with them, right? However, our brains have been programmed for thousands of years to interpret body language a certain way. And one of the ways we interpret people looking into our eyes is we perceive that as a sign of aggression if they hold that glance for more than 7 seconds. So remember, eye contact is good. Too much eye contact is bad. People will perceive you as aggressive. You know, it's just like if you have dogs You can see my dog buddy is joining us today, by the way. When you want to find out if a puppy or if a dog is a more aggressive dog or a more passive dog by nature, one of the ways you can do that is by looking into their little faces and seeing if they can maintain eye contact with you. Because if a dog can maintain eye contact with you right in your eyes for 10 seconds, let's say, that is going to be more of an aggressive dog, more of a dominant dog. What most dogs do, if they're more passive, and that's what most people want, they don't want an aggressive dog. If you are looking into the dog's face, they'll look back at you and they'll look away. You ever notice that? How if you have a dog, you'll do that. You'll look right into your dog's face and they'll look up at you, then they'll do this. That's because they know you are in charge. And if they were to stare you down, so to speak, that would be a sign of aggression, a sign of dominance. And they don't want to do that with you because they know that you're the one who's the dominant person in this relationship. Keeping that in mind, it's the same thing for human beings. Same thing. When a lot of us go into a job interview, for example, we'll have it in our brains. We'll think, okay, I got to turn it all on. I got to really use my polished communication skills. And therefore, when I talk to the person that's interviewing me, I'm going to make sure to maintain that eye contact. So we'll maintain the eye contacts the entire time. And basically what that person will feel like is, yeesh, like a stare down contest. And remember that if you leave that job interview, or if you leave that presentation, or if you leave that meeting with a client and you stare them down the whole time, they might think, well, I really liked the information they presented. Boy, they were really good at maintaining eye contact. They were a very powerful communicator, but something about them just gave me the creeps because you stared them down, and that's creepy. Also, a lot of people, when we are learning or when we're practicing maintaining eye contact more, a lot of times we'll maintain that eye contact and inadvertently our eyes will open up a little bit too wide like this. I had a young lady in a conference once say to me, my boss sent me here because he says that I'm more of an aggressive personality type. And I just don't know why he says that. Maybe you could help me out. I'm not aggressive at all. I'm more of a passive person by nature. And I remember talking with her and cluing her in that, one thing you can do is close your lid a little bit. Because remember that you can see the entire iris of the eye. That is also a sign of aggression. It's also a sign of psychosis. So you want to watch that and make sure that you're not opening up your eyes too wide. Because some of the people who are watching this right now have had people tell them, you can be a little intimidating sometimes, or you can come off a little harsh or aggressive. And one of the things that you may be doing and probably do if you're an aggressive personality type by nature is you stare people down and your eyes are open too wide. So remember, about every 7 seconds when we are communicating with somebody, what we want to do is just maybe look down and look back up. We don't want to force stare all over the room. And you want to try not to look up when somebody's talking with you or when you're communicating with somebody. The way that most people will perceive it as comfortable and inviting is if you're talking with them about every 7 seconds or so, if you haven't broken eye contact, which most of us do naturally. Most of the time during any conversation, it's natural to break eye contact while we think about stuff. And that's what most people do. But again, some of us, we don't do that. So if you notice that several seconds have passed and you have not broken the eye contact, just look down and look back up in the person's eyes. And after about another 7 seconds, remember at 10 seconds pass, that's too much. So if you feel as though about 7 seconds, 7 to 10 seconds have passed, look down and look back up. And that way, the person with whom you are communicating will feel that you can not only maintain eye contact, but they'll feel more comfortable when communicating with you because they will not perceive you as aggressive or psychotic. And that is what we call the look away. And now I'd like to talk about a couple of danger phrases and power phrases for work and for home. Our first danger phrases are going to be for home. And the first danger phrase I'd like to give you is, you are a blanker. What I mean is, we tend to label people, and those labels tend to end in ER based on their shortcomings. So if somebody, for example, lies to us, many times instead of telling them, you lied to me, we'll say to them things such as, you're a liar. Or if somebody cheats on us or cheats in a board game, whatever, instead of saying, for example, in an assertive, straightforward manner, you cheated, we'll say things like, you're a cheater. And we tend to put that ER label on people a lot. And remember that when we label other people, all we're really doing is placing those own labels on ourselves. Because what I give to my brother, how I communicate with someone else, is really in the end how I am communicating with myself. And what I want to stop doing is labeling people, because one of the things, for example, labeling does is if I'm communicating with my spouse and my intention is to actually overcome some challenge that we have, to work through some issue between the two of us. If I use labels and say, you're a blanker, what happens is that speeds up their self-talk and that closes down the lines of communication. Remember that the average person is always speaking to him or herself at the rate of about 800 words per minute. We don't think in abstract thoughts, we talk to ourselves. And if I use words that label other people, I'm actually increasing self-talk, which is going to make my message more difficult to get through to that person. And so what I want to do is instead be more upfront, assertive, and clear in my communication, and talk about, if I feel the need to do this, what people did, their actions, rather than making that who they are and labeling them that thing. That is one of the top things that we can do at home that immediately closes down the lines of communication between us and the person with whom we're communicating. The next danger phrase I'd like to give you for home is, love you. And the reason I want to talk about this is, whether it's your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your spouse or your significant other, whomever it may be, your children, when we say to somebody, love you, we're missing an opportunity. I mean, to be able to tell somebody, I love you, is such a gift that we are given. And the more we appreciate that gift and utilize it, the more that we'll get. And furthermore, remember that the words we say to other people have a direct biochemical effect on them. And when I say to somebody, love you, there's a very little biochemical effect. When I say instead, I love you, even if it's a quick, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, I love you. When you use the whole phrase, I love you, that complete phrase, it has a very significant biochemical effect on the person to whom we say it. And so don't miss opportunities to really cultivate that part of your life. Being able to tell somebody, I love you, is a gift. And we should only add to that. You know, we could certainly say to somebody, I want you to know I love you and I always will. That's great. But shortening it up as if we're not valuing the opportunity that we have to tell somebody I love you, it's like throwing away that opportunity. We're not valuing it. And unfortunately, it tends to be that when we do not value things and we throw them away, we're going to get less of those things. And I want more people in my life that I'm able to say, I love you too. So when you have the opportunity, whether it's your spouse or your kids or whatever, to tell them that you love them, and that should be as much as you possibly can say it, remember to use the whole phrase, I love you. They will notice it, whether it's on a conscious level or a subconscious level is irrelevant. They will notice it on a biochemical and even a spiritual level. That phrase, I love you, is one of the most important phrases in the entire language. Utilize it and relish every opportunity that you have to say it. The next danger phrase I'd like to give you is for work. And our first danger phrase for work is idea. You might have noticed that you've gone into a meeting and you're talking about some challenges that you have at work, and you'll say to the group, well, you know, I have an idea. And people will listen to your idea, yada, yada, and they won't really invest in your idea much. And then somebody else 5 minutes later has basically the exact same idea. And all of a sudden, everybody's saying, oh, what a wonderful idea. Some people are perceived as real problem solvers. Their ideas are valued. And some people aren't. And one of the things that we can do to make ourselves appear to be more of a problem solver, someone who comes with solutions, I'm the solution man, is to use the right language. Remember that people connect us with other people who use the same verbal patterns that we use. And you do not find, for example, powerful, influential CEOs coming to the boardroom and saying, I have an idea. You don't find that because they've learned to polish their speech patterns. And if I change that speech pattern, taking out the word idea, think about what people are really looking for. You know, if somebody has a problem, if somebody has a challenge, what do they want from you? You know, lots of people come into work with lots of ideas. You know what I mean? A lot of crummy ideas. I don't want to be associated with people who come in to work with a bunch of ideas. If you have a problem or if you have a challenge, what should I have? I should have a solution, an answer, maybe a proposal. But the difference between, well, I have an idea and, well, I have a solution is night and day. Wouldn't you agree with that? So remember, when you say to somebody, I have a solution, I have an answer, I have a proposal, subconsciously, the more you say that, people will start to perceive you as somebody who brings solutions to the table rather than simply ideas. So remember, danger phrase, idea; power phrase, solution, answer, proposal. And of course, just one little caveat: the word idea isn't in all circumstances a danger phrase, of course. I can use the word idea as much as I want to without really worrying about it until it comes to a situation in which I am trying to solve somebody's problem and I want them to believe in my ideas. In those cases, I want to swap out the word idea for solution, answer, or proposal. Simple. And if you do that, people will perceive you as a more powerful, confident problem solver. The next danger phrase I have for work is the phrase constructive criticism. How many times have you heard that phrase at work and it makes your stomach churn? This lesson, we're talking a lot about different biochemical reactions, and we have biochemical reactions to different words and phrases. For example, when somebody tells you that they'd like to give you some constructive criticism, it makes our stomach churn most of the time. And we will have a biochemical reaction to that phrase because we know that what they're really going to do is critique our work. And that's fine. If somebody's going to give us, for example, some feedback, if somebody's going to give us a critique, most of us are confident enough in our work and our abilities to be able to receive that. If you're not, that's something we need to work on. However, if you use the wrong terminology, and constructive criticism, for example, really isn't correct and it's rather outdated. Do you know what I mean? It's a phrase that we might have used 15, 20 years ago in the workplace and it gained popularity. It is now out of style and dates your communication style, and it's not really accurate. When we want or are giving some feedback or a critique, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the word we should use. Feedback. Very simple. So scratch the word constructive criticism from your verbal repertoire at work and instead use the word feedback, and people will think of you as a more frank, honest, and direct communicator. And now I'd like to get into our dealing with difficult people strategies for the week. And the first strategy that I'd like to talk about with you is called our Anti-Interruptor. If you find that people interrupt you when you're speaking, or if there's one special person that you find interrupting you, practice this strategy and you can become overnight a master anti-interrupter. A lot of times, whether it's during a debate or a conversation at home or at work, people are trying deliberately to steal the floor from us, whether it's to cut us off and invalidate or diminish our message, or whether it's to maybe belittle us in front of other people. For example, let's say that you're giving a presentation at work, or if you're in a meeting and you're talking about your proposals or your answers or your solutions, sometimes there will be people who will try to interrupt you and steal the floor from you. And if you let them do that, your communication power, your image as a professional communicator will plummet. So we should all practice the art of maintaining the floor when we communicate. And this anti-interrupter tactic is perfect. It has 3 basic steps. And it's interesting because if you watch Judge Judy is one of my favorite shows. Now, you might not like Judge Judy, and that's fine. She's not what I would call someone who communicates with tact and finesse, but you cannot deny that she is a very powerful communicator. And you cannot interrupt Judge Judy. You cannot steal the floor from Judge Judy. It doesn't happen. And she actually uses this 3-step strategy. Remember that when somebody interrupts you, you want to turn to face that person. This is important. Face the person. Even if they're not facing you, if they're sitting next to you, you want to take at least a moment to turn towards that person as you use the strategy. Okay? Step number 1, make wide eyes and nod your head forward. We're going to do all 3 of these steps together, but step 1 is wide eyes and nod forward. Because remember, those 2 things, wide eyes, as we talked about earlier in our lesson, is a sign of aggression. And nodding your head forward is a sign of aggression. And remember that our body language is much more powerful than any words that we could speak. It speaks volumes more than anything else we are doing. So that body language strategy of wide eyes and tilting your head forward is step number 1, and it's crucial. Step number 2 is you want to use a stop gesture. Remember that, of course, the universal stop gesture is like this. And so if you want to use a simple stop gesture like that, that's fine. If you watch Judge Judy, for example, her stop gesture, karate chop, which is super aggressive. But I suggest using a simple stop gesture like that, because no matter what culture you're from, that is understood as stop. And step number 3 is to use an anti-interrupter statement. there's really only two that I recommend. Number one, I'm speaking. Number two, I'm still speaking. And you want to be able to do all of this without pausing at all, without missing a beat. That is why you want to practice these things. So make sure to take your flashcard around with you this week if you find that being interrupted is something that you struggle with, and practice doing this so that the next time it happens to you, if you're giving a presentation, you're talking, you're in front of colleagues, and somebody tries to steal the floor from you without missing a beat, you can say, I'm speaking, and then you keep speaking without missing a beat. And then if they try it again, I'm still speaking. And it sounds like it may be simple. It is one of the most powerful strategies that you can possibly use to stop somebody, because they will not be used to somebody saying to them, I'm speaking, as they're speaking. Like Judge Judy, you'll watch, she'll say, I'm speaking. And she'll give you a karate chop, the eyes wide, the head forward. She'll raise her voice. And remember to keep using the broken record. Do not, when you're using this strategy, let somebody get away with interrupting you. And one of the worst things you can do is one of the most commonly done things. You'll notice that what do most people say? What's the first thing out of their mouth when somebody tries to interrupt them? Comment. What's the most common thing that people do? They'll say things like this. Excuse me, I'm speaking. I'm sorry, I'm not finished. They'll start out with saying, excuse me, or I'm sorry, or I'm not finished speaking yet. I'll let you talk when I'm done. All that stuff. I'll let you talk when I'm done. I'm not finished speaking yet. The I'm sorry, excuse me, all of that stuff. It only takes one message. I'm speaking, and you can figure all the rest out, and you will. And of course, this is one of the strategies that I would want to use after doing a cost benefit analysis. You know, if I'm speaking with my grandmother and she interrupts me, I'm not going to say I'm speaking to my mother. I probably wouldn't do it to my boss. I would use the strategy, of course, with those whose opinions of us is not important to you at the moment, because most people will get their nose out of joint. However, they will respect you more as a communicator. And certainly those who are watching will respect you more as a communicator, because when we see that exchange between other people, when we see somebody who has the floor and somebody tries to take that floor from them, and they confidently say, I'm speaking, and then they keep talking, and they might even say, I'm still speaking, and then they keep talking. What most people do, and I'm sure you've seen this, is we'll sit back and go, oh, did you see that? Wow. And my impression of you, my opinion of you has just skyrocketed. And I'll think, okay, that's somebody not only that is powerful and confident, but that I'm not going to mess with. So remember, practice these strategies and know when to use them. You want to selectively use the anti-interrupter, but do use it when you feel it's necessary. That's the anti-interrupter. And our last difficult people strategy is the anti-office bully. I want to start out by saying I realize there are many different types of bullies. And I'm not talking about the bully in your 7th grade math class. I'm not talking about an abusive spouse. I'm speaking about the office bully. You know, an office bully is somebody who is aggressive in their communication style. They talk really loud. They talk over you. They do what they're going to do. They are verbally abusive in the sense that they might name call. They think they're going to be pushy and get what they want while stomping on the rights of other people. That's an office bully. And there are many strategies to use with an office bully. One strategy that we can use that we're going to talk about right now is this simple 2-step anti-office bully. Remember that when you use strategies where you're dealing with difficult, hostile people, you always want to be aware of your body language. You always want to make sure that your chest is up, that your shoulders are back, and that you do not tilt your head to the side at all. You want to make sure to tilt your head forward if you're going to tilt it, or at least keep it straight, but never tilt your head to the side when you are confronting a hostile, difficult person. So let's say that you are dealing with an office bully and you're discussing your ideas and they start to talk loud and talk over you and swear. When you've decided that is enough, try this simple 2-step process. Step number 1, deliver a boundary setting statement. A boundary setting statement helps you be an assertive communicator. Remember that we have to, as assertive communicators, tell other people how we expect them to communicate with us. We have to set limits. We have to tell people when they are committing a communication infraction with us. That is your responsibility as an assertive communicator. And a boundary setting statement helps us do that. It helps us tell people, hey, you know what? I'm going to reward you by continuing to communicate with you. However, I'll only do that if you follow simple rules. And the way you articulate that is by using a phrase that sounds like this. I do want to, yada, 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 but not yada, yada, yada. So repeat that out loud after me. I do want to, but not. And here's a very simple magic phrase that I can use and you could use for boundary setting statements. I do want to hear everything that you have to say, but not in this manner. And you can mix that up a lot. I do want to hear all of your ideas, but not if you're going to continue to use profanity. I do want to hear everything that you have to contribute to this meeting. However, not if you're going to act in this unprofessional manner. I do want to continue this conversation, but not like this. That is step number 1. And step number 2 is deliver an empowering statement. An empowering statement is a statement that lets other people decide how to move forward. Now, remember, you're the one who's navigating this conversation because it is such a gift to realize that we can navigate all of our communication interaction with other people, all of it. You are in the driver's seat. Now, it's just like when we're in the driver's seat of our own car, we don't always take the route that we're hoping to take. We don't always even get to our destination, but you are driving and you are in charge of these conversations. And the more you realize that, the more we all realize that I'm in charge of every relationship in my life and I'm in charge of every conversation that I have, the more success I will find. I won't be able to hit my target 100 times out of 100 every day. Maybe yesterday I had the opportunity to hit my communication target 100 times and I maybe only hit it once, but with some more tools, maybe tomorrow I can hit it twice. And an empowering statement is a great tool to use in a variety of communication circumstances. And it goes like this. Are you ready to continue this conversation now? Or would you rather maybe take some time and revisit this later this afternoon? You can let somebody know, hey, as I just told you, we're not continuing this conversation the way you thought we were continuing it a moment ago. However, I'm willing to continue this conversation as long as you follow my rules, which I just stated to you. You can't use profanity. You have to treat me as a professional, whatever that is. And I'm going to give you the option of doing that now, or we can come back later on this afternoon. It is your choice. Give people choices and they will feel empowered. That's why it's called an empowering statement. And you'll be amazed at how often people will start to adhere to your rules when you set them clearly and let people know you have 2 options. We can do it this way, or we can try it again later on. And remember that the key is if it continues in a manner in which you are not comfortable, you have to get up and leave. And that includes if it's your boss, if it's your spouse, if it's your employee, if it's your coworker. Once you have set boundaries and you have told somebody, I will not communicate in this manner, if it continues and you communicate in this manner, you're hurting your image, you're hurting yourself, and you're actually hurting those people around you because you're training them to communicate in an aggressive, disrespectful manner. Now, you might want to give people one more opportunity. You might want to give people what's called a bottom line statement. A bottom line statement begins with, I don't allow. So repeat that. I don't allow. Repeat it again. I don't allow. One more time. I don't allow. And it's very simple to say. For example, if you told somebody, Mark, I do want to hear all of your ideas, but not if you're going to continue to use profanity. Would you like to take some time maybe and we can revisit this issue later on this afternoon? Or are you ready now? After you've said that, if Mark says, you know what? I don't really give up what you think. You could throw in a bottom line statement and say, Mark, I don't allow profanity either in my home or my office. Now, would you like to continue this conversation now, or would you like some time and we can revisit this issue maybe later this afternoon? You might even want to throw in a redirect with assumptions. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, but a redirect with assumptions is a great strategy to use. And again, a variety of different difficult people situations. And it always sounds like this. When you're ready to, I'll be ready to. Now, repeat that after me. When you're ready to, I'll be ready to. The way you might use a redirect with assumption is on your way out the door. After you've told Mark, I don't allow profanity at home or in the office. Again, would you like to continue this conversation now? Or shall we revisit this issue maybe later this afternoon? If Mark says, fuck you might want to say, Mark, when you are ready to speak to me as the professional that I am, I'll be ready to continue this conversation. And you can leave. You might even throw in a redirect with assumptions earlier. You might just use that as one of the strategies that you want to try out and say, Mark, when you're ready to stop using profanity, I will be ready to hear everything that you have to say. And you can throw in an empowering statement. Are you ready to do that now? Or would you maybe like a little time to gather your thoughts and we can revisit this later this afternoon? As long as you have strategies such as bottom line statements, redirect with assumptions, boundary setting statements, you can mix and match them. You can use one before the other. You can use them all together. But the problem that most of us face is we can't find the words in difficult situations to properly articulate our rules for communicating and train people how to communicate with us. If you practice strategies such as these, and knowing the names of them, crucial. Know what a boundary setting statement is. Know what a bottom line statement is. Know what a redirect with assumptions is. Other people know what they are. And the more you know, the more powerful of a communicator you can be. And you rise up in your class of communicators. You can communicate with the best of them if you know what the strategies are, know what the verbal patterns are, and know how to use them. So what I'd like you to do is keep the flashcard for this lesson in your pocket this week, or in your bag or in your portfolio or whatever you carry around with you. And practice using these verbal patterns so that when you need them, you can more effortlessly say, well, when you're ready to, I'll be ready to. Or, I don't allow, or I do want to hear everything that you have to say, but not in this manner. Practice using these statements, because if you don't practice, going back to Judge Judy, have you ever watched those judge shows? You'll see some people get up and they'll say things like, well, ma'am, I witnessed the female exit the vehicle. And they sound very awkward and stilted because that's not how they really talk. And it shows. Their mouth has really not practiced saying things like that. But if you see police officers get up and speak like that, it sounds totally natural. They'll get up and say things like, well, ma'am, I witnessed the female exit the vehicle. And it sounds normal for them simply because they say it a lot. And so their mouths are more comfortable. They look more comfortable because they are comfortable. So if you want to look more comfortable and appear more confident in your communication, you have to practice these strategies as in no-risk situations. Practice them at home, practice them with your friends, practice them on the telephone so that when you need them, you can pull them out and use them and appear confident, cool, collected, and it will appear effortless for you. And those are some ways you can deal with the office bully. And speaking of that, that brings us to our communication principle of the week. Our communication principle of the week is we train people how to treat us. This principle is basic. And it's so crucial for us to recognize as a powerful, savvy, in control communicator. If people treat you like garbage once, maybe twice, that's about them. But if you find that people are treating you like garbage, especially if the same person treats you like garbage over and over and over and over again, the first time was about them. The fifth time, that was about you. Because there's something that you must be doing to reward that behavior. We've all had situations in our lives where we've had repeat behavior that keeps popping up in our life, where people are treating us in a way that we don't like, but it keeps popping up. It might not even be with just one person. It could be with several people, but it's the same behavior and it mystifies us. And we're like, how could that happen? How could I find yet another boyfriend or another girlfriend or another employee or another boss who treats me like this? How is that even possible that there are two people in the world like that? And I found both of them. Because it's all about you. And we train people how to treat us. The first time, let's say you're dealing with an office time sucker, the time suckers, you're minding your own business, you're working, you can hear the time sucker come down the hall. And we kind of cringe thinking, oh no, I've got a lot of work to do. If they come into your office and they steal 20 minutes from you, the first time, again, that's about them. But what happens is I get a lot of people in my communication training courses who will use sentences with me that begin with, so-and-so is always yada, yada, yada. Or it seems like every day, so-and-so, yada, yada, yada. Oh no, this person does it with everybody. They're always blah, blah, blah. And I have to remember, we all have to keep in mind, if there's a pattern of behavior in our life that we don't like, that is about us. The first time somebody sucks 20 minutes from your day, that's about them. The 10th time, that is about you, because what gets rewarded gets repeated. So I'd like you to repeat this out loud after me. We train people how to treat us. Say that. We train people how to treat us. Now say this. I train people how to treat me. Say that again. I train people how to treat me. And now say this. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Say that. What gets rewarded gets repeated. We're going to talk about these theories in our upcoming lessons, but I'd like you to remember and really focus on this week that you train people how to treat you, and look at other people that you work and live with. You know how some people tend to go through life and everybody around them treats them like a god or a goddess or a queen. And then there are some people who go through life and it seems as though everybody treats them like garbage. And in both situations, it's because that person is training the world how to treat them. That's what we do. And one of the first steps we can take in breaking the cycle of difficult, negative, unacceptable behavior that's coming at us from other people in our life is to realize I train people how to treat me. And one of the first things I can do is recognize what gets rewarded gets repeated. What are the rewards that you are giving to the difficult people in your life or to the negative behavior in your life that keeps coming at you?